Action! Hey ghosts, welcome to a video released right on schedule. Gap? What gap? In honour of the 100th anniversary of the Hollywood sign, and not just because that loosely relates to what I wanted to talk about anyway today, today's topic is the biographical picture, or the biopic. The biopic is a film that dramatises the life of a non-fictional or historically based person. According to filmreference.com, the biopic has been around since 1929. So it'll also be celebrating 100 years soon. Hollywood's got a lot of centenaries coming up. In celebration, I think they should make a biopic about me, a young filmmaker from Scotland with a wild imagination and creativity oozing from every pore. Sitting in her living room in front of a camera week after week, talking about stuff that's happening in the world. Played by Florence Pugh in a ginger wig. Today, I'm going to be looking at how to make a good biopic through Elvis, and how to not make a good biopic through Blonde. Spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't watched yet. Now, it's fair to say that films are portrayals. Even if you try to stick to the truth 100%, there are still choices and implications that come through that force a point of view. Angles can make us think someone is powerful or weak. Lighting can make someone look ethereal or evil. And we all know what happens in the edit. So I'm not saying that there is a way to make a film completely objective, even documentary. And I don't see why anyone should. It's art. You should be saying something. Or at least
crying for help.
Lately, the biopic has been having a bit of a moment with high-profile celebrities being mythologized in celluloid, or .mov. Usually, the story is worth telling because the individual had an interesting and dramatic real life. The biopic is there to allow us to live the drama that person went through. But in recent years, we've begun to see some not so hard-hitting biopics. Movies that served up all of the nice parts and glossed over all of the dramatic and interesting parts. Oh, Freddie Mercury was outrageous? Show me that then. I'm waiting. Now, when an Elvis film directed by Baz Luhrmann popped up in my radar, I was intrigued. Not least because Måneskin were involved in the soundtrack, and I am a faniskin. That doesn't sound nice. Anyway, Baz Luhrmann's eccentricity was an interesting match for an Elvis movie. Baz likes a busy film with a lot going on. He aims for extravagant and maybe a little bit unhinged. But it's interesting and it's daring. Baz also released a song in the 90s about wearing sunscreen, and it's this lo-fi beat with a lot of life advice, and it's honestly quite moving. But back to Elvis, this choice meant that maybe we would see an extravagant character within an extravagant film, and we did. 80% of this movie is a montage. I had whiplash in the first 20 minutes from all the concentric circles and kaleidoscopic montage that I was watching. If you watched this film on acid, I think you'd have a journey out of this world. And this is good because it emoted how Elvis crash landed onto the music scene and stirred up the stuffy norms of the era. You really felt like you were in the whirlwind of Elvis's life. Admittedly, it felt like we were watching a scene and then it finished and then we went to another scene and then another scene. But then we would go back to a scene that definitely felt over, and you were like, okay, where are we in time? And it used a lot of flashbacks and a lot of mixing of time. I'm really confused about when his mum died, because she was like, Elvis, if you go to war, it'll kill me. Yes, that's my American accent. And then she dies, and Elvis is sad. And he's like, damn, now I need to go to war. Wait, so you didn't go? And she died? Just the thought of you going to war was enough to kill her? Okay. But I really enjoyed the ride. It wasn't perfect, and it didn't try to be. It was more of an experience than it was a film. You are living the fast-paced, trailblazing phenomenon through the screen. I particularly enjoyed the moment where several characters say the words, "he's white," about 8 times.
That's the thing. He's white.
He's white? He's white.
And I also enjoyed the part where Elvis can sense racism happening in another space and time somewhere, and he uses his wiggling hips to defeat it. However, I really disagreed with the film's overall message, which is not about racism or progression. It's about responsibility. See, I didn't know a thing about Tom Parker until I saw this film, but not even Tom Hanks in wolf's clothing can make me feel sorry for this guy. The story is told through Tom Parker's narration. He is reflecting on Elvis's life, and he doesn't have any redeeming qualities. He traps Elvis in a contract, performing in one location for the rest of his life, never getting to leave the US or indeed perform anywhere else in the world. And when Elvis tries to take matters into his own hands, Tom Parker tries to sue Elvis for all he's got. Which to me suggests that there's no friendship there. There's no relationship other than worker and boss. Imagine your boss got to narrate the story of your life. Well, I have nothing to say about her childhood, her personal relationships, or indeed her hobbies and interests. But she did work. So for Tom Parker to turn at the end of the film and say, "Some people think I killed Elvis, but I didn't kill Elvis. You did." I actually said the words "fuck off" out loud in the cinema, which is fine. In Scotland we say fuck in most sentences. It was actually kind of polite. I disagreed with the message because I personally don't take responsibility for Elvis's death. He died in the 70s. I was born in the 90s. How is this my fault? I feel like therapists everywhere are going to be like, "So what's getting to you today?" I suddenly feel responsible for Elvis Presley's death? Fucking film. And I know that what they're trying to say is that public demand and the overwhelm of performing all the time is what wore Elvis down and made him unwell. But I would argue that that's Elvis's manager's responsibility to call the shots on that. If your act is struggling and about to die, give them a break. In other words, a little less conversation, a little more action, please. Elvis is a great movie and I highly recommend it. Just try not to feel personally victimised by Tom Parker. So we move on to Blonde. I went into this knowing that it was going to be partially fictional. I have some rough references in my mind about what happened in Marilyn Monroe's life, but I'm not an expert and I definitely don't have a lot of knowledge to draw on there. I don't really know what went down. I had also read that director Andrew Dominik wanted this to feel like a poetic retelling of her life. It's based on the semi-fictional book by Joyce Carol Oates, and apparently Andrew Dominik was also inspired by photographs from throughout Marilyn's life that he planned to recreate as scenes. It's for this reason that the film switches from being in black and white to being in colour frequently, and it's also the reason it switches aspect ratio. The thing is, when you're watching this, it feels jarring. We're not super conscious of when the director has decided to set up a scene to look like a portrait black and white photo or a landscape colour photo. To a viewer, the switching just feels random. The only way that you would get this is if you have an accurate memory of all photographs of Marilyn Monroe's life. So, is there an intended audience for this film? One of the most interesting things about Marilyn is that being Marilyn was a performance for her. It's well documented that she felt that Norma Jean, which is her real name, was her, and Marilyn was a performance. I'm probably not the first person to point this out, but I love the dramatic irony of her real life name. Norma is one letter away from the word normal, and Normal Jean sounds like a copyright-free version of Plain Jane. The universe was like, we can't let this Norma Jean thing slide. We've got to have fun with this. And a star is born. I'm going to change my name to Fairly Boring and see what happens. So yeah, the idea is that Marilyn is a persona that Norma Jean can turn on and off. And the film tries to explore this. The problem is that in the film, there doesn't feel like there's a difference between Norma and Marilyn. It just shows both of them trapped in their suffering. And this is a popular criticism of the film at the moment. It dwells on suffering a lot. And I understand that her life was filled with tragedies. But was there nothing else? Really? Every conversation is melancholic. Every relationship is doomed. Every moment is steeped in sadness. Usually, a film would mix in moments of hope and resilience with tragedy. It gives you some range to the emotions that you feel when you're watching. And honestly, I think the reason that a lot of people have said that this film is boring and bad is because they felt bored and uninterested when watching it. It doesn't let you feel optimistic at all. And for me, Knowing that some of the plot points aren't actually true, I began to wonder, what's the point in making this film? I'm not learning anything, I'm not enjoying it, and I'm not getting any sort of cathartic release that I have had from other films that deal with suffering. And I think that it's down to a lack of drive and resolution. The film chose suffering and sadness to be the link between all of its scenes, and it just isn't compelling enough. It's like you're constantly thinking that something will end the misery. Will it be this relationship? Will it be this movie? Will it be this monumental moment in her career? No, everything is sadness. A lot of people have come to the conclusion that Andrew Dominik doesn't like Marilyn Monroe and sought to torture her through this film. Obviously, he's not torturing the real Marilyn Monroe. She's played by Ana de Armas, who honestly is brilliant in this film. And it's so strange that she did such a good job portraying all of this emotion, all of the sadness and the suffering, only for us to find it incredibly dull and boring. Blonde doesn't work. And I think that the fact that Oates and Dominik chose to call their work Blonde speaks of the distaste that they had for Marilyn Monroe. So the state of the biopic is a weird one at the moment. As we all know, Hollywood is stuck in a bit of a rut, mostly making films that are based on source material so that they have a built-in audience. Taking a very famous person and making a film about them means that a lot of people will know what this is about before going to it, but if we continue to make crap, people are going to stop showing up. I would like to give an honourable mention to the film Walk the Line. It is an excellent example of a strong biopic. Biopic? I think I've been saying biopic so far. Biopic. I actually don't know which one I've been using. I feel like I've been changing between the two. Okay, well, you know what I mean anyway. I think the choice to focus on the love story at the centre of Johnny Cash's life gave this film so much purpose. It wasn't just, here are the beats of his life. It was all of the parts of his life, warts and all, shown through this one central story that drives you from beginning to end. He grows as a person. His love grows, his understanding of his life, his relationships with other characters, and all of this is driven through his passion for one person and his journey from them just being friends to them finally getting together. Walk the Line and Elvis are a great watch. Don't bother with Blonde. Anyway, thanks for watching. What do you think of the biopic? Is it doomed? Or will it flourish again? Submit your answers in a series of unrelated photographs, some in colour, some in black and white, cropped to whatever size you want. See you next time!